Hello, Robbie.
Sounds like Kevin. Is that Kevin?
Yes, hello.
How are you, Kevin?
I am doing fine.
Glad
How
to hear.
about yourself?
Baruch Hashem, thank God. Everything is great. For some reason, I'm not seeing anybody. Let's see what's going on. Oh, okay. So everybody's playing hard to get. Everybody's got their cameras off.
Cameras off.
I'll try to cope with that. There's Brian showing off his beard.
Amen.
Hey,
It's
Keith.
getting there. It's getting there.
How you doing, Keith?
I'm okay.
I saw a picture somewhere, and I don't remember where, of you in that Revolutionary War outfit.
Oh, no, let's be clear. That's Lord Nelson's captain's uniform from 1799.
Okay, really
That's
sorry about that.
Royal Navy captain.
Okay, I stand corrected, but where did I see you in that?
I did a painting, one of my paintings. I'm in a Royal Navy uniform. Maybe on on my website, maybe.
Okay, so I got to read up on Lord Nelson so I have some more insight into you, I guess.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. They don't call me your lordship for nothing.
All right, I didn't know that. Shall I address you that way from
Always.
Okay, we'll get back
Uh,
to that a little later. Hey, Glenn,
yeah.
how you doing?
Good.
Good, good, good. There's Robin. Hi, Robin.
Hi.
Hi,
Good evening.
Amy, and hi, Walter. How you doing, Walter?
I do fine.
Hello.
How are you?
Can you hear me, Amy?
I hear you.
You can't see me?
Who is this? And I'll tell you.
Amy?
Amy, I see you. You're actually looking directly into my eyes. Oh, and Sheila's back.
Well,
Here,
of course.
here comes trouble.
This is
You're not
this
the
is
first
Glenn.
person
Do
to
you
say that.
see?
Sorry.
You're not the first person to say that.
Yeah, I realized that. I realized
I see
that.
you, Glenn.
Oh, hi, Carol.
Hey there, how are you?
Very well, thank God. How you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Good. All right, so I got some feedback over last week from people, and a few people said that this material is a bit daunting, somewhat overwhelming and confusing. And I understand. I understand what you're saying, and I want to emphasize the fact that the structure of each class is to present the technical terms, and the abstraction, the esoteric aspect of what we're talking about first, but it's not something that material is not something that you need to know. I promise there's no final exam and you're not going to get tested on it. So you don't need to know the Hebrew terms for things. You don't need to know the terms at all. Um, I tried to spend more than half of the class, the latter part of the class, on dealing with as we say in Yiddish, the tachlis, the bottom line in terms of how we can use this material to enhance our lives. But based on last week, I'll be more sensitive to the frustration that you may be experiencing, and let's see if this class goes better. But if there's anything you want to comment on now on that subject, please let me know. Help me teach better.
I thought the class was amazing. Now, I did read what you sent out today in your email, and I was going to ask you if the people in your circle and your classes and this class fit this description because I was trying to get a hold of it. If not for the fear of, for example, the government, every man would swallow his neighbor alive. And that makes it like we're all cruel and evil. And the people in your circle and the other rabbis, like I said, even in your classes in Young Harris, it's hard to believe that, but I'm trying.
You're saying that it's hard to believe that without rules and regulations, without judges and without police, that we would descend into anarchy.
It's hard to believe, correct, to a degree.
All right.
The swallow his neighbor alive, I thought was strong. but I have to accept it.
Well, that verbiage is taken directly from the Talmud, but we can see, I mean, we can see with our own eyes over the last few years.
Look at Iran, yeah.
Well, no, not with Iran, but I mean, in our own midst, in terms of those places that defunded the police. And I just feel like I'm stepping into a.
Oh, I know we don't do politics in the class, but okay.
But yeah, exactly. We don't do politics in the class, but nonetheless, when you don't have um, judges and police, then it doesn't lead to lead to a civil society, I guess is what I'm saying. And I agree with you. The language is pretty strong in the Talmud. Did I just write that, by the way? Because I write about a month ahead, so I don't remember what is being.
I got it today.
Oh, okay.
But thank you for sending it.
All right. Very good. Anyone else?
Well, I also was a bit daunted. No, not a bit, a lot daunted by it last week, and sort of felt like I was inadequate. But let's keep going.
So, first of all, thank you for sharing that. But again, let's not worry too much about the abstract application, and let's not worry about the technical terms. Rather, this is really all about, or what I hope it to be all about, is not the intellectual stimulation as much as it is the real purpose, or my real purpose for us all, which is to get to know ourselves better so that we become better people, because we as human beings are naturally flawed. I mean, the Talmud tells us that nobody's perfect. So with that in mind, knowing that we're not perfect and we're probably never going to achieve perfection, what can we possibly hope to accomplish? And first and foremost, to be more decent human beings by learning the techniques for our mind to direct our heart. That's one of the takeaways from last week, which is that the mind has to be in control over the heart, which is why anatomically our heads are located above our hearts. So if you feel something, you don't need to dominate. It doesn't need to dominate your thoughts or actions, because you're not a prisoner of your feelings. That's what we're getting at. As we evolve spiritually, we don't need to be held hostage by our emotions. We're not children whose intelligence is not developed. We just need to reclaim our intelligence from time to time. So that was an important takeaway from my perspective last week. Also, the concept of setting aside our desire for the desire of another. It's easy for us to see how that works when it comes to our spouses, when it comes to our children. But we have to realize that our will, our desire, literally can bully the mind and heart, because it's the most essential expression of the soul. The desire is the most essential expression of the soul. And if that will or desire is not attuned to a higher purpose, then it can lead us to some pretty dark places.
What? Outline.
So, and then finally, the last thing from last week that I wanted to emphasize is for us to recognize that we're only human, and sometimes we end up doing things or enjoying things that we shouldn't necessarily be doing or enjoying. And if that's the case, okay. Number one, don't be discouraged, because this is the human condition. And number two, I have it on good authority that God grades on a curve. So I got a feeling we're going to be okay.
I have to just say that that's what I like about Chabad. And you know my background.
Yes, I do.
But you never judge. And I think that is absolutely amazing. And personally, I appreciate it.
Well, just because I'm not judging to your face doesn't mean I'm not judging you behind your back.
Well, it does. I don't feel as if you're judging. Let's
All
put
right.
it that way.
Good. That reminds me of a statement by George Burns. Everybody know who George Burns was?
Yeah.
Idiot.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody asked him, what is the secret to being a good actor? And he said, the most important thing is to be sincere. And once you can fake that, you got it made. All right. Now, who else? Anybody else want to weigh in? By the way, welcome Carlos and Rebecca. Great to see you.
Great to see you, sir.
Did you move to Milledgeville or are you still in somewhere in the Panhandle?
We actually moved to Sparta.
Oh, you're in Florida.
Yeah.
Florida.
All right, very good. And welcome Baruch and Dvoratova, and welcome Kim.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
So all the things that we want to accomplish really revolve around one thing more than anything else, and that is humility. Because first of all, our emotions have to be humble to accept guidance from our minds, from our intellect, and our desires have to be humble to allow for another person's desire to take precedence over ours. And we also have to recognize that certain things are just beyond our control. Some stuff is only for professionals, and we're never going to get to that place where we can do it, which is okay. But we can control our emotions, and we can surrender our will, and we can let go of those things we can't change. Isn't there some kind of prayer like that to accept the things that somebody recite that? What?
Serenity to accept the things they cannot change. What's the rest of it? I forgot.
God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. The world to know the world to know the difference. Right.
All right, good, beautiful.
Well, anyways, yeah.
Isn't that the mantra of AA?
Of
Yes.
all the 12
Probably,
step
if not, it
programs.
should be.
Yeah.
It is.
Yes.
Very good.
It's in all 12-step programs.
Got it. I'm still on step 13, so I haven't gotten it.
Oh, you graduated.
Oh, wrong direction. Okay.
All right, so let's just do a quick review of the main concepts from last week, and then we'll delve into today's subject. Basically, the premise from last week is that we are all created in the divine image, and that's the basis, and that's the purpose of our existence. And that was expressed through the top sphere. If you remember, and I hope you have all in front of you printed, the anatomy of the soul powers at the very top was something called the crown. And as you can see, the crown sits above the human figure. And the crown is the source of supernal or godly desire. And God's desire in creating the entire universe was for us. His entire desire was for us. It wasn't for that big stuff and Saturn and Jupiter and all those things. It was for us to freely choose to have a relationship with him. And that was his whole purpose in all of this. Our goal is to align our purpose, our desire, our will with God's. And when we do that, we tend to have a life that flows, something to which our entire life aspires. So when we want what we want and we're able to surrender that want to something bigger, then we know exactly what it is that we're living for. So to be healthy, we must have a purpose. We must have a strong purpose, coupled with a healthy desire. If you remember, I told you a story about the Alter Rebbe who received an individual who had an appointment with him, who was a very wealthy businessman who lost all his money. And he presented the Rebbe with a letter explaining everything that was going wrong in his life and everything that he needed. And the Rebbe reviewed it, and he looked at the man and he said, "You did a very good job of explaining to me what you need, but you didn't mention once what you're needed for." And that's the subject that we're discussing.
Oh, look. Jesus Christ.
That's the subject. So to be healthy, we have to have a purpose that goes along with a desire that's a healthy desire. And I hope that some of you, any of you, spend some time journaling on the subject. First, we journal, what do you want to accomplish in life? That's the first thing we talked about. And then we brought up Viktor Frankl, saying that man can survive any what if he has a strong enough why. With that in mind, anything is possible. So what we're trying to accomplish here is to align our purpose with a bigger picture, which doesn't mean that you're losing yourself. Rather, it means that you have a role to play in the universe. It's easy to think that your life is inconsequential outside your immediate circle. But what this way of thinking and being and acting, attaching ourselves to our higher purpose, what it does is it opens up a vital role that each of us has to engage in. That opens us up to the entire universe. We have a role to play in the entire universe. It says in Pirkei Avot, in the Mishnah, that the entire world was created for you. You exist for all of existence, not in an egotistical way, God forbid, but that you're vital. You're vital, and what you do and what you think and how you speak matter. You exist for all of existence. So after completing the discussion on the first power called the crown, or called the will or the desire, we move to the middle intellectual faculty, known in Hebrew as da'at, and what we're calling understanding. I'm sorry, we're not calling understanding, we're calling knowledge. We're calling it internalized knowledge, is the best description for the following. When we take our intellect and we come up with a plan, and then we internalize it by making it ours, by doing that, we're manifesting and we're revealing our desire. So by focusing on one's wants, we're basically setting concrete goals, creating a practical plan in order to obtain our objective. And then we journaled about whether our goals reflect our greater purpose. We started out by saying, what do you want in life? And then we circled back, or we should circle back and say, what is our purpose? What is our greater purpose? And it's not easy, and you never get to the place where you've completed that project. It's a lifelong challenge. The process is getting in touch with your divine image and making that dominant in your life. So we can say that this power of internalized understanding is the interface between the divine image and your daily life. So that catches us up, or almost catches us up. I just want to express one more concept that we need as a building block, and that is one of, in Hebrew it's called bitul, in English it's called humility.
Mm.
What does humility mean in the context that we're discussing it? Well, let's start with how an idea is born. How do you go from knowing something, from not knowing something, to knowing something? What is that process? It is a process. You start with not knowing and you end up knowing. You're trying to understand something, but you're missing information. You get frustrated, you get upset. Why? Because you know the answer is out there somewhere, but you just can't get it. You don't get what it is. It's not it. You know that it's knowable. You just don't know it. So you stew on the problem and you begin to feel broken. I hope this resonates for you. Suddenly, out of nowhere, the solution pops into your head. Eureka, I got it. Has anyone had that experience where you're working on a project, you're stuck, you can't get out of the situation, It's like your tires are spinning in the mud.
Mm.
And the more you work on it, the more frustrated you become. And it's at that point where you just snap your pencil. That's when it comes to you.
Yes.
Okay, everyone gets that, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, here's my question to you. Where did the idea come from?
Mm.
Somebody. Where did that idea come from? That a minute ago you didn't have, and all of a sudden you have it.
Okay.
You definitely didn't know it before now, and all of a sudden you know something that you didn't know, and you know that it's real, and you know that it's true. What was the source of that?
God,
Sorry?
to me, it's a God thing.
It's a God thing. Okay,
You're from
good.
God.
Good. Anyone else?
I think releasing attachment sometimes too, like getting away from the attachment to it's got to be a certain way or get it and know it now. And so where sometimes that time or like a little bit of space allows for opening up and receiving.
Thunder.
Very good. Very good. So we can say, sorry, go on. Who else wanted to say something?
So I was gonna say, I don't know if this ties in with, and I can't remember if it was Socrates or Aristotle who said that we were all born with forms, ideas that were in our mind that we just haven't found yet.
Okay,
Well, we
that
thought
sounds
that was
Aristotelian.
Torah in utero, but then we're tapped to forget it, so it's in there.
Very good. Dvartova is bringing up something from the Midrash that says that every child, uh, every fetus has the knowledge of the entire Torah, of the entire world. But upon birth, an angel taps the child on the upper lip, which is why we have the cleft in the lip, and we forget all of our knowledge. Okay, all very interesting concepts, but generally speaking, we can say that the idea comes from your soul, because your soul is essentially knowing and intelligent. It's not coming from your mind. I beg to differ with Aristotle. It's not coming from your mind. It was never in your mind. It's something brand new and fresh. It comes from the soul because your soul possesses infinite knowledge. So even when your mind doesn't have the answer, your soul does. Intellectual discovery is when the mind gets a glimpse of the soul's intelligence. I like that line, by the way.
Yeah.
Can you repeat that? Do you mind?
I think so. Intellectual discovery is when the mind gets a glimpse of the soul's intelligence.
Thank you.
So my question to you is, if you agree that whatever it is that just popped in your mind, that intelligent thought that you knew you didn't know, and all of a sudden you got it, and you concur that it didn't come from your mind, but it came from your soul, then my question to you is, how is this gap? How is this unbridgeable gap between your mind and your soul? How do you bridge that? How is that done? What's the process? And the answer is humility. Because the mind knows that it doesn't know. It feels absolutely broken about it. And then it goes blank. And at the moment that your mind goes blank, that's when it becomes a recipient and can glimpse the soul's knowledge. The mind stops thinking, the soul opens up, and an idea is born. And each of you has the experience that I'm talking about. This is not intellectual mumbo jumbo. I'm talking about everyone in their lives has had this experience.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
Jonathan, Kim piqued my curiosity there, and I'd like for you to comment on what she said about receiving this message. Or if Kim, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Can
No, yeah.
you?
I just think I like this idea of soul that's helpful in this higher order, but where I find that when we're so wed to attachment of things or getting it and like not releasing it or not, just pushing, we're able to I even want to like open my hands, like we're letting go. Then in that space of letting go, where then we're more able to receive whatever that message is, or the eureka, or flex our thinking, because it's really hard. And so tapping into that soul, that space, and the utmost knowing, but it's just hard to get there. So I think I don't want to overstep, but like it ties in my brain, my neurodivergent brain, like where that is accessing that. But you can't access that, it seems, when you're just so locked on to how you think things should be, or yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Let's go a little bit more in depth, though.
Mm-hmm.
The soul doesn't teach the mind.
Mm.
It opens the mind to see. Therefore, intellectual discovery is likened to a flash, to a light bulb. That's the way the cartoonist draws that when the guy has the idea in his head. It's always a light bulb over his head, right?
Mm-hmm.
You see it.
Sure.
And once you see the solution, your mind has to work it out. It has to develop it in detail, has to question it, has to explore it, has to compare it, has to comprehend it. Because if you have a flash and you don't do anything with it, I promise you, it'll disappear.
Yeah.
Just like when you see something amazing, you need to digest what you experienced. Otherwise, you can forget it very easily.
Mm-hmm.
So these two stages of intelligence, seeing and understanding. The seeing is the flash. The understanding is the fleshing out, is the turning it into something tangible. It doesn't need to be instantaneous. You just need to capture that initial flash and work it out over time.
And seeing and understanding are, you said, the two most, sorry.
Go
I've
on.
like, in trying to understand, like my notes, I'm trying to catch up as fast, but I see the transcripts too. But these are the top two, like these two, the seeing and understanding are.
These are the two, there are three intellectual faculties.
Right.
These are the first two.
Ah, okay. First.
The first intellectual faculty, let me just do a quick repeat of soul powers. There are 10 soul powers. Those 10 soul powers are the same 10 powers that God used to create the universe. When he created the universe, he took those 10 attributes from himself to create the universe in the macro, to create us in the micro. 10 altogether, starting with 3 that are intellectual in nature and 7 that are emotional and behavioral in nature.
Sure.
Right now, we're beginning our discussion based on the intellectual.
Yes.
The first intellectual power that we'll be discussing tonight in Hebrew is called Chachma. Don't worry about the Hebrew. It's called wisdom, which is, I think, a lousy translation, but that's how it translates. What it really is that flash of wisdom, that seeing something. The understanding we call the fleshing out of the idea. That's the second intellectual power, which is called Bina. Bina is translated as understanding. Who's glazing over right now? Anybody glazing over?
It helps when I go back to the picture, right? Like,
Yeah.
the picture.
Tavar Tova, you're on mute. I see your lips moving, but I can't read them.
Okay, I need to get this thing out of my head because it's there. We've been working, or I've been working on a puzzle, and I know that whoever created it did not print certain pieces because then I can't find them. But when I leave, when I go away, so frustrated, and I come back and there's the piece.
Okay, I think it's a good metaphor. I think it very much applies. Very much applies. Kim, did you want to say something?
No,
Okay, so we're dealing with it. We're talking right now about the flash of wisdom, which is the first intellectual quality that God used to create us. And then we're talking about understanding or the fleshing out of that idea, also a gift from God. So the process is the flash of intellectual conception, of discovery. What happens? The soul opens and the mind sees the solution. Tova, your soul opens up and it sees to put the piece in the right place. It's a flash. That's all it is. It's something you see. Bina, understanding, is taking that, working out the information until it's finally understood. If when Archimedes developed the theorem of buoyancy, he yelled, "Eureka, I got it," and started running down downtown Athens naked. Now, if you asked him, what is that? What are you doing? He wouldn't be able to tell you what he just discovered. He had to come back and he had to hopefully put on his bathrobe and then flesh out the idea. So once you see the solution, your mind has to work it out, it has to develop it in detail. To question, to explore, to compare, to comprehend, what have you. Questions?
Would that apply?
Sorry?
My question is, would that apply, for example, if you're in a class, which we all are at this minute, and something just came to you, and you're saying then you go back to work it out?
Exactly. Out of the blue, yeah?
Yeah. That did happen to me once in school. But the point is, when I went back to work it out, I really, really, really couldn't do it.
Yeah, it's not.
It was in a math class, and it was geometry, and I knew the answer, but I didn't know how I worked it out. I mean, does that make any sense?
That's exactly what we're talking about, Sheila. That you have the experience. Everybody right now, each of you has this experience or has had this experience or many of them in your life. You may not remember it, but you have and you're certain to have more. So this first power, this revelation, if you will, is the first intelligent power. It's how the mind opens up to something greater than itself. That's where the humility comes in. It transcends itself. Whereas the second power, the fleshing it out, is the mind acting the way a mind acts, analyzing, understanding. Those are two different parts of your brain. You could apply this, as you know, it's not new anymore, but science has come up with the left brain, right brain. You know all that stuff, right? That's what we're talking. You could say that the first power, the flash, you could call it the creative art. You could call it the right brain. And the understanding and the fleshing out, you could call the left brain. By the way, Kabbalah, the subject that we're discussing, puts the flash to the right side of the body, the right brain. And Bina, the understanding, it puts it on the left side. So when Shlomo HaMelech, when King Solomon said, En chadash b'tachat shemesh, there's nothing new under the sun, he knew what he was talking about. Here we have the masters 2,500 years ago writing about right brain, left brain, aligning them thus, and now we have science saying, Eureka, we figured it out. So, Chochmah, the right brain, the flash of wisdom, That's the source. That requires humility. That's where the mind witnesses the birth of an idea by opening up something greater than itself. By the way, in this flowchart of the soul powers, everything on the right is a masculine energy. Everything on the left is a feminine energy. Everything in the middle is a harmony between the two. So we could create an analogy and say that that flash of wisdom is analogous to the man contributing his sperm to the birth of a child. The woman takes that sperm and literally internalizes it and works with it over a long period of time to create something in reality. So both the Chachma and the Bina, both the flash of wisdom as well as the fleshing it out, organizing it, turning it into something tangible, both of those aspects have to exist in order to create a child. And what we end up creating when we combine these two aspects of our intelligence is something magnificent. So therefore, what we're talking about, the flash of wisdom, is associated with three ideas. Number one, humility. Number two, vision. And number three, absolutely infinite, unlimited, undefined potential. That's what's in your mind. That's the first of your intellectual soul powers. Can you imagine? You're like walking around not even thinking about that one. That's there. It's sitting right there in your brain. Let's look on page 39. The first text comes from the Zohar. The Zohar is the foundational book on the subject of Kabbalah, of Jewish mysticism. The Kabbalah says that Chochmah again is the first power, the flash of wisdom. The power, he calls it the power of unlimited potential. As I said, just hold on to this word for a minute and then you can forget it. The Hebrew is Chochmah, okay? You're not getting tested, no final exam. The word Chochmah is a contraction of two words in Hebrew. The first is called Koach, the second is called Ma. The literal translation of Koach is power. The literal translation of Ma is what? So this faculty of the flash of wisdom is literally the power of what? That's what it is. It's the power of what? It's coming from a place of not knowing. It's unlimited potential of the soul. It's undefined. It's a pure flash. Who's not with me? Should I keep going?
Yeah.
What can Chochmah teach us about ourselves? Number one, it's who we are. We each possess a soul. Every member of humanity and every corner of the planet was created in the divine image. And that divine image is infinite and unlimited. Well, with certain caveats. God is unlimited. We're not so presumptuous as to call ourselves unlimited, but we have that quality. We have the divine image quality because that's the image we were created in. So that's who we really are. That's who we can aspire to be. So if you think about that for a minute, it means that your past specifically those actions of the past that you're not so proud of that you wouldn't put in the highlight reel, are irrelevant. Because you are defined first and foremost by your true self, by your soul. And whatever those oops moments in our lives are, you get do-overs. They're not real. One can do tshuva in Hebrew. One can repent in English. So our soul is unlimited. And it has unlimited power. So whatever happened in your past, I'm telling you, it's just a story you tell yourself. There's no reality to it. Next point. Self-esteem. Self-esteem is essential to happiness, to productivity, to good health. But trying to build self-esteem by external validation is completely useless. Because real self-esteem does not come from subjective praise, but from the fact that you have objective value. Your soul is literally a piece of God Almighty. You are created in His image, and that's what gives you value, not the other stuff. The other stuff is fleeting. So it's not about what you do, it's who you are. It's intrinsic. It's not about what we think that other people think about us. Parenthetically, we're usually way off on that anyway. It has to do with our objective value. Let's look at page 41. The 13th chapter of the book of Numbers, we read, "We appeared to them as small as grasshoppers, and that is how we felt ourselves to be." Can anybody tell me the bigger context of where that quote comes from?
That was the Meraglim when they went to spy out the land.
Excellent, Devar Tova, excuse me. This was about the story of the spies. Let me just tell you the story of the spies for those of you who don't recall.
Recall greatly.
All right. For those that don't recall, we had been in the desert for only a year on our 40-year trek. We approached the border of the land of Israel. The people decided that they wanted to send scouts in. They wanted to send spies to check out what's going on in Eretz Canaan, what's going on in the land of Canaan, soon to be the land of Israel, after the rebranding. They go to Moses. They ask Moses, "Can we please send spies in to check it out?" Moses says, "Let me check with the boss." Moses checks with the boss. The boss says, "I'm not telling you to do it. I'm also not going to tell you not to do it. But whatever you do, you're on your own. Like, do it yourself. I'm not telling you to do it." So Moses gives explicit instructions to 12 princes from the 12 tribes. Two of those princes, I think most of us know their names. Can anybody tell me?
Cohen and Levy.
Joshua.
No, not quite. Walter?
It was Joshua and Caleb, right?
Right. Joshua and Caleb, Yoshua and Caleb, amongst 10 other tribes, 10 other families. Moses gives them explicit instructions. Go in and check out to see what's the situation. Are the people big or small? Are they living in fortified cities or open cities, etc.? So they go, they take off. they come back and 10 out of the 12, not including Caleb and Joshua, come back with a slanderous report because they didn't just do what Moses said to do exclusively. They added their own commentary and they said, these people are giants and we can't possibly beat them. We were like grasshoppers in their eyes because, the commentators say, because we were grasshoppers in our own eyes. And that's the key to the story right there. The key is because they had such poor self-esteem, that they had such a poor self-image, that they projected that on the Canaanites, thinking that the Canaanites saw them as grasshoppers, which was not the case. Everybody get that?
Yes.
Okay, since I opened that up, let me just give you a little more commentary just for fun. The reason that Caleb and Joshua did not succumb to this, and they tried to the best of their ability to salvage the situation, albeit unsuccessfully. Number one, Joshua was already the heir apparent to Moses, and he was blessed by Moses personally before he went, so he didn't succumb to this poor self-image. And Caleb took a little side trip, a little side excursion. Once they were in Eretz Canaan, once they were in the land of Israel, he went to Hebron, the same Hebron that is in the news all the time today. And in Hebron, that's the grave site in the cave of Machpelah, the Marsa Machpelah, the tomb of the patriarchs. And he went to pray there. And he gathered strength from that. And that's how both of them were able to resist this poor self-image. Parenthetically, nothing to do with our class, I'll just say that there's an interesting midrash, an interesting commentary on this whole story that says that the reason that they gave a bad report, the reason that they slandered, is because they didn't want to go in to Israel, because they knew once they went in, they'd have to work for a living. They'd have to farm, they'd have to fight, they'd have to do all the things that regular people do. In the desert, they were protected by clouds of glory. They got manna from heaven every day. They got the well of Miriam every day. So there's plenty to drink, plenty to eat. And by the way, parentheses on the parentheses, the manna from heaven, the Midrash tells us, taste it however you want it to taste. So if you felt like Chinese and your wife wanted Italian, you didn't have to fight over it. You could each get what you wanted that night. Sound good, Sheila? So that's the danger of poor self-esteem, is the point. I don't know if anyone has heard of Rabbi Dr. Abraham Tversky. Kim, I recommend you Google him.
Love him.
Pardon me?
I love that. Well, let him rest in peace. But we were blessed that he actually was in our house one night.
Oh, really?
He used to come to Atlanta off and on to some of the treatment centers, because at that time he was the head of psychiatry at, I think, University of Pittsburgh, and he had a treatment center in I can never say it, outside of Pittsburgh before he made Aliyah.
Interesting. So anyway, there's this guy, Rabbi Tversky, opened up drug rehab centers, and he had like a higher incident of success than virtually anybody has ever had. But anyway, here's the quote I want to share with you of his. He said, "The way you feel about yourself is the way you believe others perceive you." So that's the takeaway here.
Yes,
Yeah.
I totally agree.
So when you're looking at the other guy, look at the other guy's divine image. And then you'll feel good about him, and reciprocally, you'll feel good about yourself. Problem solved.
So the idea is, so to check him out, Rabbi Tversky, correct?
Yeah.
I want to make sure that's the person.
Abraham Tversky. There are a lot of Tverskys.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a big family, all overachievers. Rabbi Dr. Abraham Tversky.
Thank you.
They asked him, or somebody did, how he was able to write. At that time, it was 27 books. I'll never forget this. He said, "Oh, I wrote it's the same book 27 ways." But it all had to do with self-esteem, every one of them.
So he said the way you believe about yourself is the way other people will perceive you. Is that correct? Did I have that right?
The quote specifically was, it's on your page 42, by the way, text 6.
Oh, sorry. I
The way you feel about yourself is the way you believe others perceive you.
Gotcha.
It says in the Talmud, in Tractate Tamid, following sentence. This is text 7, by the way, on page 42. Who is a wise person? One who sees from where things originate. Seeing our infinite essence, seeing our soul, seeing our divine image can only lead to one place, and that is humility, selflessness. So this flash of wisdom that we're talking about is humble because it itself sees the source of intelligence. It isn't itself. It's not patting itself on the back saying, look how smart I am. Look at me, I'm Sandra D. It doesn't do that. It looks at its source and says, I'm nothing. I'm just a receptacle. So again, our greatness is not in our doing. It's literally a divine gift. So to have high self-esteem is not a contradiction with true humility. As Dvortova brought up last week, Moses is called by God, my humble one, my humble servant. He is known as being humble. Well, how can Moses be humble? He had it all. He had the whole package. And it's because he realized that if somebody else had been gifted what he had been gifted, they might have done more with that potential than he did. I think I just wrote an essay on that, by the way. I mean, I just published an essay on that, but it was comparing Moses and Adam. And never mind, I'm deviating too much. Let's just, we got plenty of time. So many people negatively misjudge themselves. And this results in maladjustments. So in the world of therapy, not that I'm a therapist and not that I play one on TV, but I would suggest to therapists that the therapy should be directed towards helping the individual achieve objective, correct self-awareness. I think that's a prerequisite in therapy, personally. Rabbi Tversky in text 8 says, it's on page 42, unfortunately, many psychotherapists too often focus on searching for pathology, for childhood deprivation and trauma, for whatever went wrong in the patient's life. This may at times be futile, and the patient would fare better if he were helped to get a true picture of himself and find out what is right with him instead of what is wrong with him.
Absolutely agree.
Let me check with, yeah.
I was just to say, even in my work, it's very different. I think where some clients think, it's the sit on the couch, tell me how you're feeling, write this scripted, biopsychosocial, like, the bringing in the expressive arts, integrating, these concepts, working with someone, not like I have this lesson plan. I mean, there's parameters, but where I kind of think of Mr. Rogers in that, come as you are, and everyone is and being just who you are. I'm not here to fix you. I believe, and Carl Rogers, also a client center, not to go way off, but that each individual within themselves has the ability to heal and find what they need at their own pacing. And I look at my role as a support along as a traveler to explore those things that are innately within them. And so, but we do a lot of different, things that are right and left brain to integrate those things. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of some of the ways in which psychotherapy and psychology always lands. But yeah.
Who else wants to weigh in here before we move on? About this or about anything we've covered or about?
Yeah, Rabbi. And I want to be respectful of everybody's time, so I don't want to go chasing rabbits here. But looking at this chart, and this happened today, right? So I've been in the public sector for over 30 years, and usually there's nothing new under the sun. But I was driving around in a neighborhood today, and I was conflicted. And looking at your chart, now I think it makes sense why I was conflicted. I read what you sent us today about everybody's created in everybody's image, and then government exists to make sure that we don't, all, violate our neighbors. But I'm driving through this neighborhood, and it's a residential neighborhood, and we're trying to bring it up, so we're trying to revitalize this neighborhood. And off to my right, there is a dilapidated mobile home, a shack, a cow, and a horse. And this guy is squatting. He owns one parcel and he's squatting on other parcels. And these are the times when I say, I need to put the wisdom of Solomon hat on, because I don't know.
Carlos, I'm sorry. Carlos is city manager?
County manager.
County manager for what county? In Milledgeville?
Baldwin County.
There you go. So
Baldwin.
that's the context of what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Go on.
So I'm trying to figure out, okay, I need the wisdom to know what to do, but it seems to be in conflict that I feel compassion for this guy. I don't think he has a job. So I think I'm looking at the chart thinking that the loving kindness is fighting against the wisdom. It's like, I could call the Department of Agriculture tomorrow and he can get in big trouble for having that cow and that horse there. They have no water, they have no grass to eat, and I don't know what to do.
Well, this is perfect. Unfortunately, it'd be more perfect if you presented this question in about 2 weeks when we cover this very subject.
Okay.
But I'll give you a preview. On one side of the emotional chart, below the 3 intellectual faculties, on the far right, you see something called chesed, loving kindness. And on the far left, you see something called gvura, or discipline, restraint. So there is a tension between those two. Your right side wants to give. Your left side wants to restrain and only give in a measured way when it's appropriate. So the right side is compassion. Compassion is what God used to create the universe. But if he didn't throw in a little restraint, he would not have made a successful creation. There has to be limits to the creation. We don't go on forever. We have creation is something you can measure. It's limited. If it's limitless, then it's just God himself. So even God used restraint by holding back some things. So there's always this tension between compassion and restraint. So your tendency is to be compassionate. Most of our tendencies are to be compassionate, but we have to temper them, which brings up what's in the middle between those two. I don't have the chart handy at the moment. It's beauty or harmony. Is that what it's called on your chart?
Mm.
So it's a synthesis between those two. I think when I just ran through these last week, I brought up the example of seeing a guy strung out in front of a Starbucks.
Mm-hmm.
And your compassion wants to give him a $20 bill, but your restraint says he's just going to spend the money on drugs. There you go. Thank you. And compassion comes up and says, hey, buddy, let's go inside. Let me buy you a cup of coffee. Tell me what's going on. So the system is set up, it's wired in a way where we're always going to default more towards loving kindness than to discipline. But we also have to use restraint. If your kid loves playing on the freeway, you probably don't want to let them do that. That would be loving kindness, but really, really stupid. So you want to use discipline. So Carlos, anyway, we'll be getting more into that. So I got a feeling this problem's not going to go away overnight anyway. Any other points before you move on to?
Well, I'm thinking of my grandson who just, thank God, safely just got out of Gaza today. And I'm having a lot of trouble having compassion for a certain part of humanity. And I keep asking God, not that God needs my reminder, but you did create these people that have stolen your chosen people, and it's very difficult.
Alavai, God willing that the world was so black and white, that what was good was purely good and what was evil was purely evil. Unfortunately, everything is mixed up. But I think that the consensus, most people would agree with what you're saying. And also, Devar Tova has skin in the game because she has a grandson who's a member of the Israel Defense Forces who just left Gaza today.
Mm.
By the way, I spent considerable time in Gaza before we gave it away in 2005.
It was beautiful.
And I spent a lot of time there. Anyway, anyone else, or should we move on? Okay, let's talk about wisdom from the perspective of inspiration. As we've already discussed, wisdom is that undefined flash of wisdom. The mind sees into the soul, but it can disappear quickly if one does not flesh out the idea. Has anyone had that frustrating experience, like all of us? So this flash of wisdom needs the next intellectual power, which we'll be discussing next week, called Bina. Understanding, it needs to flesh it out, to analyze it, to develop it, to prioritize it, to concretize it. Because any inspiration needs follow-up. You got to do something to integrate the inspiration. You must recognize look at text 11. He's actually my neighbor. He's the editor of the chief editor of Chabad.org. Great website if you're ever looking for Jewish material. His name is Tzvi Freeman. Written a lot of books. He's literally a genius. He's one of these guys, like, okay, whatever, for another day. He says, yesterday you were inspired. Today, that is all gone. And so you're depressed. But this is the way the system works. Everything begins with inspiration. Then the inspirations step aside to make room for you to do something with it, for fire to turn into deeds. Like Thomas, who was the guy that invented the light bulb? Thomas Edison.
Yeah.
Said that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration.
Inspiration.
So it's great to be a right brainer, and it's great to have all these genius ideas, but we got to bring them down and make them into reality. Which brings up, I think, an obvious question, which is, okay, this all sounds great, but what if you don't have the motivation necessary? What if Desperate Housewives is on TV and you want to watch that instead? my wife points out to me that that show was like 20 years ago, but for some reason, that's my frame of reference, and we don't own a TV. So I don't know the names of the shows today.
That's a very good idea not to own a TV.
Yeah, you can do it too.
I like that.
A friend of mine decided to get rid of his TV many, many years ago. The family had a TV in the living room. He took a ball peen hammer and he smashed the screen. He left the ball peen hammer in the TV, and the TV's still in the living room, but it's not watchable. It says it says in Sefer Chinuch,
I like
page
that.
47, text 15, the mind is drawn after action. And then we can turn, let's give the psychologists their day. David Burns, in the book Feeling Good, I think it's the most famous, most frequently recommended book for depressed patients by psychiatrists in the United States and Canada. And he says on page 47, text 16, individuals who procrastinate frequently confuse motivation and action. You foolishly wait until you feel in the mood to do something. Since you don't feel like doing it, you automatically put it off. Your error is your belief that motivation always comes first and then leads to action and success. But it is often the other way around. Action must come first and the motivation comes later. Who knows that?
Yes.
Everybody
Yes.
know that?
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
In business, I've done that to myself so many times. And I say to myself, Sheila, don't be lazy. Get on with it.
If you want, I can call you every day and tell you that.
Okay, thank you.
In case you're thinking that the fake it till you make it approach is dishonest, it's not. Because you're simply being asked to live up to the divine image, which we're all imbued with. That's all I've got on the subject of Chachma, of the subject of wisdom. I'm happy to elaborate, answer questions. Let me just say, next week, we literally get our hands on the joystick. We're going to discuss the thinking person's proactive guide to happiness. We'll discover that joy is a is a state of being that we can induce ourselves by virtue of our thoughts and our attitudes. So I'm happy to stay on. Anybody have questions? And it does not have to be on the subject. We can play Stump the Rabbi if you want on anything that's on your mind. No? All right. That's a little scary. It's a good thing I have good self-esteem because otherwise I'd be a little bit worried that nobody asks questions. I want to
I
wish.
have a question. I mean, I always have questions, so I try to temper myself. But this space of whether it's being an empath or looking at, that kind, like loving kindness, and obviously the temperance to, work with discipline and so on and so forth. It's hard when a lot of people have it, but I think both as a therapist or just maybe prone more to sensitivity, if you will. I don't know if I buy in. So many terms are used now that it's like, I don't even like to say like empath, but I notice I'm getting to the question. I notice certain sensitivities, especially for folks who are like neurodivergent, ADHD, some other things that, again, without heavy hitting diagnosis, but you see so much, like pick up so much, and sometimes that temperance, if you will, can be really, really hard. So I'm just curious, other ways to like actionably, if you will, build in temperance. And I kind of maybe know some of the answers, but I like more of, some guidance in this space that, putting that into action. Like we were on for example, we had that, but I don't know if you all heard, but that boat incident on Lake Notley, that was my family.
That what?
Hmm.
Say again?
There was the boat incident blow up on Lake Notley.
I did not know that.
And so, yeah, that was our family.
What does that mean?
Sorry.
Oh.
Yeah, well, 8 of my family members were on the boat. My brother driving, he's okay, but the other 7 all got injured. 2 in critical care at Sloan Grady. My daughter, who's here, and boyfriend all had leg injuries and are bandaged up. Their 2 friends, and then my nephew. So there's holding that capacity. It's not about that, but like where then, being available for clients and balancing myself, making sure like I care, but I could not like really read about the floods or any other. It's like you don't not care. But when I was trying to walk my dog, right? So take a walk, doing something to temper or discipline or find some grounding things. It's like there's my neighbor who's in the middle of hospice, and I mean, just or coming around and people are nice and they want to, hey, how you doing? Which is great. I like where I want to be caring and also preserve my own space and headspace. And I don't know. I don't know. That's a roundabout question, but
You're speaking about a giant challenge for people who are empaths, people who are sensitive by nature, tend to be deeply affected by the tourists, by the problems that they see going on around them. Sometimes personal, up close and personal, and sometimes even by reading the newspaper. It's just it's a type of person.
I try to avoid news. That
Don't
maybe
you have to find the other side then to make that middle ground? Being super sensitive, it can be destroying, I think. So there has to be something on the other side of the
Yeah,
brain.
for sure. But the question is, how do you achieve equilibrium, and how do you do that without losing the benefit of being a sensitive person?
Balance.
And what would God say? I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's too big of a question from the space of faith, because I've not practiced. Like I'm on my search, right? I'm on my journey, my spiritual quest. And so, and it gets harder, I think, as I'm middle aging, because then there's a lot more awareness to things and my own existence and, having some existential stuff. So anywho, but like where faith, maybe that's a loaded question. I don't know. I know to walk. I mean, like as a therapist, there's a lot of things I know, and not because I'm all that, but like we put in action to look at not getting burnt. There's so much where like, even just to take the walk or to reach out in this balance of everybody's got stuff going on. So it's like you want to almost recluse, but not because you want to be there because you care. And so anyways, this temperance is something I'm really trying to work on a lot.
I can't answer directly, but I do want to share just a couple of stories with you. The first one is a story about the Rebbe Rashab. It doesn't matter who he was, but he was a big Rebbe, a big spiritual, saintly guy. When he was a little boy, he and his brother, also no slouch, I mean, also way up there spiritually. When they were little boys, they used to play a game called Rebbe and Chassid, the rabbi and the penitent. And they were playing this game outside the kitchen window, and the mother overheard this conversation. The other brother played the Rebbe. The Rebbe Rashavu, the one who later became the big Rebbe, was the penitent. So the way they played the game is that he told the Rebbe his problem, and the brother went on to give the correct answer. But with that, the penitent, the younger brother, looked at the older brother and he said, "You're not a Rebbe. You'll never be a Rebbe." So when the mother later asked him why he said that comment to his brother, he said, "Because my brother didn't sigh before he answered me." And a Rebbe has to sigh. A Rebbe has to internalize what's going on with the person in need. Another story. Sorry, two other stories, but they're quick, and we'll still finish early. The first one is about the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rebbe Nachum Mendel Schneerson, who was the seventh generation, who passed away in 1994, who the fact that I am who I am today is because of him, and I'm not unique. There's a zillion other people who will tell you the same thing. But it was his practice in Brooklyn, New York, at his synagogue at 770 Eastern Parkway on Sundays. People would line up, thousands of people would line up and stand on line in order to pass by him, and he would give each one $1. And that dollar was to be used for charity. In other words, implicitly, with giving the dollar was, here is $1, you be my ambassador to give charity somewhere else. And for most of the time, people would just get pushed through the line. But there would always be a brief interaction. And we're talking a man at this stage in his late 80s, after 2 strokes and a couple of heart attacks, who would stand on his feet for 12 hours at a time with people coming through. If you ask anyone, including me, who's been through this line, they will tell you how amazing it was because the Rebbe was completely there with them. That he was completely focused on them. And that's our job, is to be completely present in the moment. One last story. Another Rebbe, again, who would see people in his office. He always had 2 or 3 changes of clothes because he would sweat through his clothes having to see all these people because he had to put himself in a particular situation. Now, this is a really weird story I'm about to tell you, but once came somebody with a problem, and the problem that he even admitted this problem. He was an undertaker, but he used to engage in very unbecoming activities with the corpses. Yeah, true story.
Necrophilia.
Yeah, necrophilia. And he said this to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe broke into a sweat because he realized to help this guy, he had to identify something in himself that would allow him to relate to whatever this guy was experiencing. Now, somehow on his level, not to make it analogous at all, he was able to get in touch with whatever that is. So everything I'm saying has to do with being empathic, has to do with putting yourself in that place, but it has nothing to do with how do you preserve your own sanity in the process? How do you stay balanced? How do you stay centered? And I don't know explicitly what the answer is except to say that they realize in each one of these stories, each Rebbe realizes it's not about them. They are simply a conduit. They are simply channeling the divine. They are created in the divine image. They have the schut, they have the merit to be in the position to be able to dispense this kind of advice, which is true and authentic advice. It's kind of like the doctor, full with ego, who every time he saves a patient, he feels great about himself. And every time a patient dies on the table, he feels terrible about himself. That's not healthy. What's healthy is for the doctor to be thanking God for giving him the power to heal. And when he's not successful, to realize that was in God's hands. So he's protected either way. I don't know if anything I'm saying, I'm just throwing whatever's coming to mind.
Yeah, for sure. And being able to even just most of the time, not a lot of the time, like dusting that off or like a ritual or way in which compartmentalizing, but just, you want to be compassionate, but there's so much like in the world, whether it's at the job or, separate than the incident, but where you want to be compassionate, but it's like, I just want to walk past that house, my like neighbor or certain people, not to be rude. And that's, I guess, my own discipline. And sometimes it feels wrong, I guess, or guilty, and turning that like down.
I don't know, but it's something definitely to pray about and to reflect on.
No, I'll do that.
And speaking of compassion, God should have a lot of compassion on your family, and whoever's in critical care should get through it
Have a
quickly,
complete
and
healing.
be fully functional, and everybody else as well.
When our granddaughter, was going to have brain surgery, she was 8 months old. So the pediatric brain the neurosurgeon told our children, anyone who has questions, I'm giving you this allotted time to come in. So we went with our daughter and son-in-law to meet this doctor. Everybody looked like Boy Scouts because we're older and everybody else is younger. Thank you. So finally he said, any questions? I said, Dr. Petronio, do you pray? And he didn't bat an eyelash. He said, yes, ma'am, I do. And my daughter did not roll her eyes, which was a really big thing. And it just felt good, you know? And I told Rabbi Feldman about that. And he said, it's nice to have someone who doesn't live in his ego, you know? But
Yeah.
he immediately said, yes, ma'am, I do.
Yeah.
And it just felt good.
Sure. There's been a whole lot of prayer, so thank you, and I'm
You're welcome.
super appreciative. So thank you for taking the time.
All right, anyone else? No? All right, I want to wish all of you a good week. We should hear good news. God should also send his blessings to Texas for all these poor people and their families and the survivors. And may the ones who perished find their way up to the seventh heaven on the express elevator immediately. And for those that survived and are injured, may God grant them a healing, and anybody in sorrow should get through it and know only happiness in their lives.
Amen.
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 All right, everybody. Have a good evening. See you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Good Shabbos.
Take care.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Good night.
Night.
All right.